Hi, it's Katrina. Ever wondered what secrets lie hidden beneath the lush, vibrant canopy of the Amazon rainforest? It's a lot. We're not talking just jaguars and monkeys. We are diving deep into lost cities and stories of bloodshed. Lots of things can be covered by the jungle. Lost cities of the Amazon. Lost Amazonian cities are rewriting the history books and blowing our minds. 2024 was the biggest year yet for revealing the secret past of the world's greatest jungle. Imagine stumbling upon an ancient urban jungle hidden under an actual jungle. That's exactly what archaeologists found using LiDAR, the magical laser technology that strips away the rainforest to see what is really going on under the trees. Spoiler alert, the Amazon is not an empty jungle. So, what was going on down there? LiDAR scans revealed to archaeologists a cluster of ancient cities deep in the Amazon rainforest that were home to at least 10,000 people. They were living it up, wild and free, 2,000 years ago. This discovery was like finding Atlantis, only with fewer mermaids and more cornfields. The star of this story is a guy named Stephen Rothstein. He's been studying Amazonian archaeology for most of his life. 2 decades ago, he noticed some weird earthen mounds and roads in Ecuador and had a hunch they might lead to something amazing. But back then, he couldn't piece it all together. It was only recently that the LiDAR scans allowed Stephen to fulfill his dream. Without lasers, there was no way anyone would ever fully excavate or see the whole Amazon jungle. I mean, come on. Think of all of the explorers and scientists and conquerors trying to explore the Amazon, searching for lost cities and gold. Armed with machetes and a dream, many never made it out. And again, remember, even 20 years ago, we didn't have this technology. Rothstein called what they found incredible. It's a sprawling network of settlements connected by roads and tucked into the foothills of the Andes. Picture the connectivity of the Roman Empire, only shrouded in trees and with a few anacondas for good measure. Stephen believes the settlements belong to the Upano people, who appeared on the historical charts around 500 BC and survived more than 1,000 years. The last evidence of them is from 600 AD and seems to suggest they vanished rather abruptly. For more context, the Upano of the Amazon thrived 500 years before there even was a Roman Empire, and for a few centuries after the empire was destroyed. Everyone is obsessed with Rome, but the Upano seem to have had a lot more success and longevity with their society. Makes you think, doesn't it? So what did these Amazonian garden cities look like? It's hard to fully imagine. You have to try and picture over 6,000 raised platforms rising from the forest floor. Some platforms were homes, some were towers, others were used for ceremonies. The Upano also built fields with drainage canals, cultivated corn, beans, manioc, and sweet potatoes. And they built a network of roads that make modern city planning look lazy. One road found stretches more than 10 miles, and it might even go further. I already mentioned that the population was at least 10,000, but that's actually a low estimate. Archaeologist Antoine Dorison said it could have been as high as 30,000 during its peak. Forget the old myth that the Amazon was pristine and uninhabited before Europeans showed up. Early explorers reported farms and towns in the rainforest, but no one believed them until now. Recent discoveries like these lost cities suggest up to 8 million people lived in the Amazon before Columbus got his ship stuck on a sandbank. Kayaker attacked in the Amazon. Have you ever dreamed of paddling down the Amazon River, enjoying the serene beauty of the jungle? A kayaker envisioned the same thing, but his journey was not as peaceful as he had planned. He was attacked by unidentified creatures. The viral video of his attack has social media buzzing. The footage shows mysterious creatures making quite the splash, but what were they? The video shows that the creatures had fins, large grayish-brown bodies, and a knack for theatrics. One came so close to the kayak that you half expected the guy to scream. But no, he kept his cool, muttering something under his breath that I can only assume was a bad word. Then things got wild. A whole squad of these creatures started frolicking, churning the water like a swarm of savage piranhas. It's frustrating because the water looks like it's boiling from the action under the surface, but the video footage doesn't show any of the animals clearly. You'd think the kayaker was trying to film the Loch Ness Monster. First guess, maybe it was a gang of angry Amazonian dolphins. These playful pink creatures are a common sight in the Amazon River. However, the fins in the video are much darker than river dolphin fins, and there's no sign of their distinctive long snouts poking out of the water. I think that's strike one. Next, some commentators suggested it might be a group of giant catfish. Sure, catfish are big, but this group seemed way too lively. Ever seen catfish turn a river into a bubbling jacuzzi? Neither have I. That's strike two. What about whales? Humpback whales actually sometimes wander into the Amazon during migration, but they typically show up in December, and they stay near saltwater areas where the river meets the Atlantic. By February, they are long gone. Plus, these creatures didn't look very humpbackish. Call that strike three. The leading theory is that the kayaker was accosted by Amazonian manatees. I bet you didn't even know the Amazon has its own manatees, but it does, and they're known to get a little bit frisky during mating season. Manatee behavior can be, let's call it, enthusiastic. Whatever they were, they made quite an impression. They definitely gave the kayaker a story for the ages. If you've got theories, drop them in the comments. Half the fun of a mystery is guessing, after all. The Lost Tribe that committed mass murder. It's a tale as old as time. Diamonds, greed, death, and survival. This is what happened when a lost tribe of the Amazon jungle took on treasure hunters. Without giving too much away, I'll tell you up front, it was a bloodbath. In 2004, the Cinta Larga tribe of the Brazilian jungle became infamous for a bloody confrontation that left 26 diamond prospectors dead. Some were found pierced by arrows, others were shot or beaten. There was a rumor that honey had been smeared on the eyeballs of the dead and the critically wounded to attract ants. We all know what ants do with honey-smeared eyeballs, right? It's not pretty. But how did it come to this? It boils down to greed and anger. For years, the stream of the Black Fly's mine was rumored to rake in $20 million a month by mining diamonds. Prospectors, many ignoring the law, swarmed indigenous lands. The Cinta Larga people were caught in a toxic mix of exploitation, resentment, and opportunity. The diamond mining was often being done illegally, so there's strike one. And in any case, the miners were on their ancestral lands. Maybe you thought this was something that happened in ancient times, like when the Spanish conquistadors ravaged Inca villages and stole their gold. But it's still happening right now in the Amazon. Not much has changed in 500 years. Before outsiders showed up, the Cinta Larga, who were barely 2,000 strong, lived off the land with no concept of ownership or wealth. Diamonds, even massive ones, were seen as shiny but useless. The Cinta Larga would skip diamonds across the river for fun, like you might skip stones. The arrival of the white-skinned prospectors changed everything. It brought disease, guns, and capitalism to the Cinta Larga's previously peaceful jungle. Now let me introduce you to the tribe's leader in 2004, Nakoka Pio. As a child in the 1970s, Pio lost much of his family to a measles outbreak brought in by outsiders. Left to fend for himself, he developed a knack for leadership and diplomacy, becoming a bridge between his people and the modern world. Nakoka was the chief who dealt with the outsiders, which typically meant the greedy white miners. After the massacre, the media painted him as a diamond baron. They claimed that Nakoka lived in mansions and cruised around in luxury cars. He admitted some truth to those rumors, but also flipped the script. Nakoka blamed the influential miners for making him lust after material wealth. The argument was that Nakoka had sold out his people for greed. Let's go back even further. When former president of the USA, Theodore Roosevelt, went on his famous expedition to the Amazon in the early 20th century, the Cinta Larga helped him out big time. When Theodore Roosevelt met them, they were allegedly cannibals and had been for centuries. The tribe's people are said to have only stopped eating human meat in the 1970s, though never the meat of the white man, which they claimed was far too salty. While this history might be a little sensationalized, it underscores how starkly different the tribe's worldview was before outsiders showed up with their trinkets and diseases. Things began to change in 1999. Brazilian law prohibited mining on indigenous lands, but that didn't stop the prospectors. The Cinta Larga happened to be living on one of the biggest diamond deposits in the Americas. Their chief, Pio, struck deals by charging the prospectors fees to enter tribal territory. The influx of cash brought modern luxuries: TVs, cars, and homes. But Bio wasn't just about personal gain. He also invested in his people, bringing in medicine, dairy cows, and increasing farming education. Still, resentment simmered. Prospectors felt exploited, while the tribe wanted greater control over the mines. By 2004, tensions had hit a boiling point. A group of tribespeople armed with arrows ambushed the miners. What might be crazy is that nobody's ever been charged. The police tried to pin the killings on Theo, accusing him of inciting violence, but evidence was scarce, and by 2023, most charges had expired without a conviction. This story might seem like a one-off, and the diamond prospectors really used this incident to make people angry and turn against the tribe. However, these types of skirmishes or attacks happen pretty often. Mining and logging and hunting is illegal in many parts of the Amazon, but no one really enforces the law. Bands of poachers or loggers will get together to attack and murder the indigenous people so that news doesn't get out. Tribes are trying to band together to survive, but it's difficult for them to get their story out, and almost no one is ever brought to justice. Did you know there was so much conflict and violence happening in the Amazon right now? And now for a quick break. But first, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Sumay Yasha and Kamran Movahed for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here without you guys. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button to join the Origins Explained family. The twin-headed giant. A huge skeleton with 2 heads was found in the Amazon rainforest during routine excavations. The skeleton stood a whopping 15 feet tall, which makes it about twice the size of the most giant people alive today. But wait a minute, is this fact or fiction? Is this proof of the Nephilim in the Amazon, or is the skeleton as fake as a $3 bill? According to the viral post from November 2024, scientists allegedly uncovered a massive skeleton with 2 heads and a rib cage so big it could double as a bird cage for an emu. The post even quoted a supposed lead archaeologist, Dr. Elena Santos, who claimed the discovery was beyond explanation using current scientific understanding. Sounds fascinating, right? You might even say it sounds convincing. Unfortunately, finding any additional evidence to back up this fantastical discovery has proven difficult. Here's the problem. The image shows a giant skeleton conveniently sitting up during the excavation. Preserved skeletal remains don't just chill like they're waiting for a photo. In real excavations, skeletons are typically found lying flat thanks to that wonderful thing we call gravity. The photo also shows the excavation team wearing medical lab coats, like a hazmat or something, like they stepped out of Grey's Anatomy. Real archaeologists are usually just decked out in rugged field gear, not scrubs and biohazard suits. Myths of giants in South America have been around for more than 500 years. When legendary explorer Ferdinand Magellan sailed along Patagonia in the 1520s, he recorded an encounter with giant tribesmen. The giants were so tall that the Portuguese sailors only stood up to their waists. Patagonia is known as the land of giants, or sometimes the land of the big feet. For a good reason. Early explorers were convinced the place was ripe with real stomping giants. Jack and the Beanstalk giants. Were the local indigenous people here just really tall? Okay, but a 2-headed giant? It's not as strange as it might sound. Plenty of people are apparently born with 2 heads. It's a condition called dicephalic parapagus. If giants have the same anatomy as normal people, they too could suffer from the same condition. And let's not forget Cap d'Oie, the legendary 2-headed Patagonian giant. Rumors of Cap d'Oie have been circulating since at least the 19th century. Sadly, the post probably isn't the break we've been hoping for when it comes to giant skeletons. There is no Dr. Elena Santos. The final nail in the coffin is that the image used in the post was flagged by multiple AI detection tools as manipulated. One tool, called Hive Moderation, concluded there was a 99.4% chance it was AI generated. Case closed then? Or is there still a tiny part of you that wants to believe? If you're wondering what experts are saying, they aren't even a little convinced. Brianna Pobiner, a paleoanthropologist at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, confirmed that no 15-foot human skeletons have ever been discovered anywhere in the world, let alone one with 2 heads. But they do exist in myth, and the Amazon is a big place. There's plenty of room for a giant skeleton to hide. The giant dolphin of terror. From the blackest depths of the Amazon has risen a prehistoric horror, a creature so alien, so monstrous, even your nightmares will have nightmares. Okay, maybe it's not that scary, but think cuddly dolphin and the Meg mixed together. Meet Pebanista yakuruna, the Amazon's ancient aquatic giant. This isn't your run-of-the-mill dolphin doing flips at a theme park. It was a massive prehistoric freshwater dolphin that lived 16 million years ago, before the Amazon was even a jungle. When I say massive, I mean the dolphin was over 12 feet long. This beast was uncovered by an international team of paleontologists from the University of Zurich. They dug up fossils during a 2018 expedition along the Rio Napo, battling muddy waters, hungry mosquitoes, and probably avoiding a few lurking panthers. Imagine the adventure! Would you brave the Amazon for a discovery like this? But it was well worth the struggle. The fossils they turned up revealed a dolphin species so unique, it might have its own Netflix documentary. The monster-sized dolphin is so cool, it was named after a mythical aquatic people from Amazonian legend. And did I mention it's the biggest river dolphin that's ever been found? Most dolphins might be playful, but this beefy fella could have eaten you as a midnight snack. The Amazonian superstar is related to the river dolphins of Southeast Asia, the ones that are still alive today. This extinct species has family halfway across the world and across a multitude of time. In the Pebanista's heyday, the Amazon wasn't the lush jungle we know today, of course. Instead, it was the Pebas system, a sprawling network of lakes, swamps, and floodplains covering modern-day Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, and Brazil. This was a giant swamp. The prehistoric dolphin flourished in this boggy environment. It had plenty of fish to eat in murky waters that were perfect for showing off its echolocation skills. Just like today's river dolphins, Ebanista had specialized facial ridges and a nose packed with teeth. It could see with sound, which comes in handy when you live in water muddier than your morning coffee. As the Peba system dried up about 10 million years ago, the dolphin's cushy ecosystem vanished. This left the niche wide open for today's much smaller Amazon river dolphins to take over. Would you ever be brave enough to trek through the Amazon in search of fossils? I can't wait to see what prehistoric creatures turn up next. The scariest wasp you don't want to meet. Brace yourself for the true nightmare of the Amazon, the giant blood-sucking wasp that eats its victims from the inside out. You better hope you're not next. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, scientists have discovered a parasitic wasp that looks like it crawled straight out of a horror movie. With its bright yellow body and a head so big it practically deserves its own zip code, this critter takes terrifying to a whole new level. Oh, and did I mention it stabs its victims, drinks their blood, and then eats them alive from within? I did? Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. This little nightmare, officially named Capitojopa amazonica, was found in Peru's National Reserve. The discovery was made by Brandon Claridge, a PhD candidate at Utah State University. Brandon and his team used big, tent-like nets to catch unsuspecting flying insects. Among their haul was this golden yellow wasp, measuring about 0.7 inches. Actually, it's tiny, but still a thing to be feared. It turned out the wasp is a brand new species, previously unknown to science. But the way in which it murders its victims is something scientists do know a lot about. The wasp is known as a solitary endoparasitoid. Plain English translation is that the wasp doesn't just kill its hosts, it hijacks their bodies in the most gruesome way possible. Here's the play-by-play. Step 1. Find the perfect victim. The female wasp uses her long hooked antenna to sniff out a host, which could be a caterpillar, beetle, or a spider. Step 2. Do some stabbing. Once she's decided her target is worthy, she pierces it with her ovipositor, which is a fancy name for her egg-laying tube. But she doesn't stop there. The killer wasp sometimes sucks out the host's blood through the fresh wound. Step 3. Lay the egg. She lays a single egg inside the host, but just one. That's all she needs to start the nightmare. And step 4. The feast. When the egg hatches, the larva goes full zombie mode, eating its host from the inside out. And if that weren't bad enough, the larva eventually forms a protective cocoon inside its host's corpse before emerging as a fully grown wasp. Now here's the cherry on top. Some wasps don't even bother laying eggs. They just stab their hosts and drink their blood to fuel their own reproduction. It's like being a temporary vampire to give birth faster. Mother Nature is pretty wild. This wasp is just one of 109 species Brandon and his team found during their expedition. Makes you wonder what other nightmare fuel is still hiding out in the rainforest. Secrets of the world's first dinosaurs. Alright, dino lovers, this one's for you. The earliest dinosaurs millions of years ago might have started their epic journey in two unexpected places: the Sahara Desert and the Amazon rainforest. Iconic Jurassic creatures may have begun life scrambling through scorching deserts and tangled jungles. If true, it means some of the most important dinosaur fossils are hiding in the Amazon, and we need to find them ASAP. It's the scavenger hunt to end all scavenger hunts, searching for fossils 230 million years old. And when they're found, paleontologists are convinced the origin story of all dinos will need to be rewritten. Joel Heath, a doctoral student in earth sciences at University College London, explained it best. He said that dinosaurs are well studied, but scientists still don't know where they came from. It's kind of like the situation with human beings. Scientists know just about everything about humans down to their atoms, but no one knows where exactly we came from. Dinosaurs have the same sort of missing link. You might say the fossil record has more gaps than a slice of Swiss cheese. Scientists are struggling to piece it together like a jigsaw puzzle with 2,000 blank white pieces. Maybe 5,000 blank white pieces. Here's a quick review of what the experts know right now. Dinosaurs likely showed up in Gondwana, an ancient supercontinent that smushed together present-day South America, Africa, and India. This was during the Triassic period, about 251 to 201 million years ago. Fossils found in southern Brazil, Argentina, and Zimbabwe tell us that dinosaurs were thriving near the southern poles back then. But wait, there's a twist. Heath's team thinks that dinos might have started their epic journey much earlier than anyone thought, and nearer to the equator. Places like the Sahara and the Amazon might have been prehistoric creature headquarters 250 million years before today. But these weren't the dinosaurs we know and love. They were hardly bigger than chickens. In fact, they may have looked a lot like chickens, clucking and pecking across the primitive jungle. The original dinos were more Chihuahua than T-Rex. Totally different picture than Jurassic Park, right? It took a lot of nerdy science to reach this conclusion. Heath and his team used a computer model to simulate where early dinos might have been hanging out. They plugged in everything from dinosaur family trees to ancient climate barriers. But if Heath's team learned dinosaurs evolved in what is currently the Amazon jungle, where are the fossils? The issue with finding dinosaur fossils in the Amazon is the same issue as finding giant skeletons in the Amazon. The jungle is remote, hard to access, and typically overlooked. Scientists have a hard time finding cities from a few hundred years ago in the jungle, and many of them aren't even buried. Finding dinosaur bones is next to impossible. But what Heath's team has proven is that the bones are there. It's just a matter of finding them. The Christmas Day crash. For the families of a missing pilot and his passenger, Christmas 2024 was a nightmare. Authorities searched for Rodrigo Machado for 5 long days in the Amazon rainforest. They finally discovered his remains on Christmas Day, and that is not the kind of present that anyone wants. The day this tragedy began was December 20th. Machado, 29 years old, prepared to take off for what he expected to be a routine flight from Portobello to Manaus in Brazil, but he made the biggest error a pilot can make. Rodrigo Cessna didn't file a flight plan. You must have a flight plan. Without it, authorities won't know where you're going. If you crash into the jungle, no one will know where to look for you. To make matters worse, Rodrigo was flying under the radar with no signals showing up on air traffic control. A day later, December 21st, alarm bells started ringing. No one had heard a peep from Rodrigo or his passenger, 27-year-old Breno Braga Leite. At this point, search teams mobilized. The Brazilian Air Force, civil and military police, fire department, and even sniffer dogs joined forces to clear the vast, thick Amazon. For 5 agonizing days, searchers battled the Amazon's treacherous terrain. On Christmas Day, they stumbled upon something far from festive: crash site. The photos of the wreckage paint a grim picture: twisted metal surrounded by an unrelenting wall of greenery. The rainforest didn't just swallow the plane, it ate it up and spat it out. Rodrigo and Breno were found deceased. It was a Christmas tragedy, one that left heartbroken loved ones wondering what went wrong. Rodrigo's flying path was a short 90-minute route that should have been straightforward. The last GPS signal was over the southeast region of Manacor, but something went catastrophically wrong. While the official cause is still unclear, experts suggest weather, mechanical failure, or pilot error could have played a role. The Amazon is full of plane crashes. Remember that the Amazon rainforest is huge, covering parts of several countries. There are many tiny planes flying remote areas, taking supplies or moving people from one place to another since there are no roads. A lot of plane crashes in the jungle can go unreported, and then the jungle just swallows them up. A lost city found by magic. Do you believe in ghosts? Until now, a Portuguese city from the 18th century was considered a ghost. It was a phantom on some old maps that nobody believed was real. But with help from something so incredible, it seems like magic, the legendary city has been found in the Amazon rainforest. I told you earlier about the lost civilization found in the Amazon using LiDAR laser beams. Well, that magical technology is at it again. This time it found a forgotten city in the Brazilian state of Rondônia. 250 years ago, Portuguese explorers set up shop in the jungle. They created a bustling colonial hub powered by enslaved labor, which without a doubt is the worst kind. The city, built on the backs of chained humans, thrived on sugar, gold, coffee, and other resources. It was the classic colonial settlement. When Brazil declared independence in the early 19th century, this once thriving metropolis was abandoned. It was so effectively forgotten that no one even remembers what it was called. It went out of the minds of the people, and the Amazon rainforest did the rest, swooping in to reclaim its territory. The jungle consumed the city so thoroughly it became little more than a footnote in history books. The rainforest was like, not today, colonialism, and yanked the city back. Now, archaeologists led by Eduardo Neves from the University of Sao Paulo are bringing the past to light. Using light detection and ranging technology, the team mapped the rainforest floor in high resolution. The result was a 3D map that revealed streets, structures, and other remains of the long-lost city. Neves said his team plans to head back into the field for some good old-fashioned digging to see what else they can find. But why is this such a big deal? The ruin is a nameless city built upon blood. Should we care? Kind of. For starters, this discovery offers a rare peek into Brazil's colonial history, and not the sanitized version. It sheds light on the people, both free and enslaved, who built and lived in the city. Plus, the Amazonia Revelada project, Amazon Revealed, which Neves leads, is all about protecting these archaeological sites as cultural heritage. Neves said they want to register the sites to safeguard them and add a layer of protection for the territories. Preserving history helps protect the rainforest itself, a win-win for history buffs and environmentalists. Save the past, save the planet. The real quest for El Dorado. The Golden Man, the hunt for riches, and the descent into madness. This is the true story behind the real quest for El Dorado. It's the version that Disney is not about to adapt into a cartoon, although the one that they did was pretty racy. It begins in 1532 with the Spanish hunt for New World gold. Legend has it that Francisco Pizarro and his crew of 182 mercenaries marched into the Inca Empire. Along the way, they discovered riches that make the jackpot at your local casino look like pocket change. I mean, we're talking enough gold to make Scrooge McDuck blush. Conquistador and historian Cieso de Leon recorded some of the things that happened in those early years of pillaging. He wrote of the kidnapping of the Inca leader Atahualpa, who was ransomed for gold. While the Inca gathered the gold to get their king back, the Spanish killed him anyway. It was during this free-for-all gold rush that the conquistadors learned about the chief of a place called El Dorado. They were told this mystery chief took the world's most extravagant spa days. He covered himself in gold dust and swam in the sacred lake. He was known as the Golden Man and could be found in what is now Colombia. In 1536, Conquistador Jimenez de Quesada led 500 men on a wild goose chase for El Dorado. They encountered two Chibchas tribes who had a lot of silver and emeralds, but they didn't find any El Dorado. So close, but no golden cigar. The Spaniards continued their search to Lake Guatavita, nestled in a volcanic crater not far from modern-day Bogotá. It was here where they realized El Dorado isn't a place, it was a man. At least that's what the locals told them. They claimed that El Dorado was the Golden Man. Each year, as part of the ceremony, the tribal chief was smeared with mud and sprinkled with gold dust. Then gold and jeweled treasures were loaded into a boat, which was sent to the center of the lake. All the treasure was thrown into the water as an offering to the jungle gods. The conquistadors heard these rumors but never saw the ceremony performed. They never did track down the Golden Man, aka El Dorado. It was as if the tribe knew the Spanish were coming and fled Lake Guatavita. Who can blame them? I'd flee too if the Spanish were on my trail. Many more have searched for the lost city, but there is little evidence such a place existed. In 1595, Sir Walter Raleigh led a pair of expeditions into the jungle in search of a lost Inca city. There were rumors that the Incas, fleeing from the Spanish, had built an entirely new city of gold in an undiscoverable location. But that's the thing about these kinds of places, right? You can't find them. Walter never found this mystical place. No one who has gone searching for it has, and no one probably ever will.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed. The giant anaconda. In the 19th century, the great English explorer Percy H. Fawcett, the one looking for the lost city of Z, described a giant anaconda living in the Amazon jungle. He claimed to see a massive prehistoric snake over 40 feet long and no less than a foot in diameter. That would make it much larger than any snake living today, and closer to the prehistoric titanoboa that lived in South America millions of years ago. Percy was a famous explorer of the Amazon who went in search of the lost city of Z and disappeared in 1925 with his son Jack. He strongly believed there was a lost city in the jungle, but died trying to find it. Hundreds of others also died while trying to find him. But he wasn't the only one who allegedly saw this giant snake. The locals call it Yakumama, which means mother of water. Other early explorers also described seeing a gigantic serpent slithering through the Amazon, normally in the Amazon River basin. Some say it's 40 feet, and some say it's over 100 feet. And even though people have seen it repeatedly throughout the centuries, and even though there are stories told by local tribes about this unusually large snake, nobody has ever successfully documented it. UFO sightings. Something strange was spotted by Google Maps that some people believe could be proof of an ancient UFO sticking out of the Amazon. It looks like there is a short line of lights on the trees in this aerial shot of Rondônia, a state in northwest Brazil. Even if you don't think it's a UFO, you have to agree that it looks pretty strange. The shape has been compared to a cigar, which is interesting because of reports of cigar-shaped alien ships over the years. It certainly hasn't been explained, so it's hard to say what this strange image is. Maybe the satellite caught a plane flying over at the same time? It's not the first time stories of UFOs have come from the Amazon, so the mystery continues. Forest islands. The earliest human inhabitants of the great Amazon jungle created thousands of man-made islands. They built artificial pieces of land in the forest, which they used to tame the wild plants of the jungle and create areas for crops. If you had told this to European explorers and scientists 100 years ago, they wouldn't have believed it. This most recent discovery has added to the growing list of evidence that people in the area had a massive impact on the land. When humans arrived in the Amazon roughly 10,000 years ago, they completely transformed the landscape. Specifically, they used these mysterious forest islands to cultivate manioc and squash. So far, scientists have identified 4,700 forest islands in northern Bolivia. The weather here is quite extreme. From December to March, everything is soaked and the entire area floods, whereas from July to October, this part of the jungle is extremely dry. These artificial islands were made by heaping mounds of dirt up to a point where, in the wet season, they would be high above the floodwaters. They just made enormous mounds of soil that turned into islands when the rest of the flatland flooded. It was ingenious and an excellent way to keep the crops growing throughout the year. Without these artificial islands, water would have soaked everything and the squash wouldn't have grown. This discovery also proves that small communities in the Amazon shaped the jungle over 8,000 years earlier than previously thought. This discovery has completely changed history, as it proves the Amazon was one of the earliest places for plant domestication in the entire world. The strongest hearts. Researchers have found a primitive jungle tribe living in the heart of the Amazon to possess the best hearts in the world. As weird as that is to hear, it's true. The Tsimane people of Bolivia have been confirmed to have the best heart health of any group of human beings on Earth. There's just something about the jungle life that's given them almost superhuman hearts. According to the author of the study, Dr. Gregory Thomas from the Memorial Care Heart and Vascular Institute in California, the Tsimane's simplistic jungle existence has given them extraordinary protection against heart disease. Their active life of foraging for food in the rainforest has completely unclogged their arteries of any cholesterol plaque. That's the thing that increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes in most Americans. When the doctor performed CT scans on these people, he found hardened arteries to be 5 times less common than among US adults. The Tsimane have an 85% chance of going through their whole life having no heart issues. The doctor said that even the oldest people in the tribe have the physiology of an average 20-year-old. The thing to understand here is that if you want to live a long and healthy life with better cholesterol and lower blood pressure, just forage for your food like an Amazonian. They are some of the healthiest people we have on the planet. Where is El Dorado? The lost city of El Dorado is allegedly hiding somewhere underneath the canopy of the Amazon, deep in the jungle where no one has been able to find it. Most historians have dismissed the story of El Dorado as a legend. Many explorers and conquistadors lost their lives trying to find it after the success of finding so much gold with the Aztecs and the Incas. Some call it El Dorado and others the lost city of Z. The thing about El Dorado is that scientists in the 20th century didn't believe humans could live in the jungle, at least not in any meaningful way. 20th century scholars said large human settlements in the harsh conditions of the jungle was impossible. Maybe primitive tribes could live here, but not advanced societies. But now satellite images have revealed over 200 massive earthworks in the upper Amazon basin. This is proof of what was once a great civilization. These earthworks are in the form of circles and squares and other geometric shapes, along with avenues, ditches, and enclosures. Some of them date back over 2,200 years. Others were made as recently as 800 years ago. Thanks to satellite imagery, scientists believe there could be over 2,000 structures hiding beneath the jungle here, the remains of lost cities that have been destroyed over time. Whoever lived here was brilliant, able to work with the different ecosystems of the Amazon and modify them to grow food and support thousands of people. It doesn't prove a great city of gold once existed, but it shows that the Amazon was once a bustling place home to a city that contained about 60,000 people. That's a higher population than most medieval European cities had. There were cities in the Amazon greater than those in Europe. The Harakbut face. In an isolated part of the Peruvian Amazon, there is an ancient monument called the Harakbut face, or the Rostro Harakbut. The Harakbut are an indigenous group who have been living in this part of the Peruvian Amazon for hundreds of years, and the face carved into the rock here has been the stuff of legend for generations. Nobody knows if human hands actually made this mysterious face, or if it's a natural phenomenon. The face is in the Amaracady Communal Reserve, which takes up over almost 1 million acres of the Harakbut tribe's ancestral homeland. What makes the face in the rock so enchanting is that it's perched over a rough section of the Amazon River. It looks as though it was put there on purpose to serve as a guardian and protect the place. There is no mistaking the fine lines for anything but a human face. It has a nose, eyes, a jutting brow, and even a bit of an underbite. It looks like a strong male warrior, or the image of some great god. But like I mentioned, not even the local tribespeople know if their ancestors made the face, or if it's just a freak creation of Mother Nature. And to make things even more mysterious, there are supposedly more of these faces throughout the region. But so far, nobody has ever seen them. Jungles shaped by humans. We already know that Amazonians have made massive cities in the jungle, and we also know they made huge artificial islands to combat flooding to grow crops all year. But there is another secret in the Amazon that scientists are only now understanding. For a long time, scientists agreed that the tribes of the Amazon lived peacefully with nature. Nobody thought they grew crops, cut down large numbers of trees, or did anything to disrupt the natural order. But that may not be the case. Ecologist Hans Tersteeg and his colleagues recently did an inventory of the tremendous diversity of trees in the Amazon. They looked at 1,170 plots of land, very far from any currently inhabited areas. They could identify 16,000 different species of trees, But what they noticed was that even though the diversity was quite large, half the total trees made up only 1% of the total species. What does this mean? It shows definitive proof that Amazonians were domesticating the species of trees that they liked. They were clearing land, cutting down the natural trees, and planting the ones that they chose. Even though there are 16,000 different species, the bulk of the species were Amazon tree grape, Brazil nut, and ice cream bean trees. Ancient Amazonians were not as passive with the land as most people think. They cleared huge parts of the forest, and they did it to plant trees that gave them more food. Alien in the forest. Someone recently captured something quite unbelievable on video in the Amazon jungle. And let me warn you, what you're about to hear is out of this world. A pair of British tourists vacationing in a remote region of the Amazon filmed what appears to be an extraterrestrial visitor. While filming some children in an isolated Brazilian village, these tourists accidentally captured a scene straight out of M. Night Shyamalan's Signs with Mel Gibson. In the video, clear as day, hiding in the bushes on the outskirts, you can see a small gray figure. This figure looks exactly like you would expect an alien from a spaceship to look. And to make things even weirder, about 20 feet behind the alien is a bizarre glowing blue light that appears to be following it. Nobody's been able to verify what's in this video. Most logical people have dismissed it as a hoax. Others believe it is a confirmation of alien life. It's hard to say why exactly an alien would creep through the bushes outside an isolated Amazonian village. Do you think the footage of this jungle alien is real, or is it just another hoax? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Ancient geoglyphs. The geoglyphs of Acre were uncovered deep in the Amazon rainforest. According to researchers from São Paulo University in Brazil, people once used these strange geometrical earthworks as ritual communication spaces. The geoglyphs compose over 450 mysterious earthworks scattered throughout the Brazilian state of Acre. They form fairly simple geometric patterns. I'm talking about squares, circles, octagons, that sort of thing. Most are about 13 feet deep, and scientists say Amazonian tribes created them starting in 1000 BC. That's about 3,000 years ago. And although the local Amazonians have forgotten their purpose, they haven't forgotten their importance. Local tribes continue to guard these earthwork sites as sacred places. The exact purpose of these strange earthworks may be unknown, but we have a pretty good idea of what they used them for. They were almost certainly ritual spaces. Members of the community probably gathered here to watch shamans communicate with ancestral spirits, the stars themselves, and the spirits of the jungle animals. These people believed human life was intertwined with natural life, with everything from the ants to the monkeys to the cosmos themselves. Cosmic villages. Researchers fired billions of lasers from a helicopter cruising over the top of the Brazilian Amazon. These lasers were used to look for lost Amazonian settlements and other potential structures under the jungle. And they didn't disappoint. Researchers could use their laser technology to identify about 35 abandoned villages. These villages were constructed between 1300 and 1700 AD, making them relatively recent. But the cool part is that they were laid out in a pattern meant to mimic the cosmos. It's incredible to see that people considered primitive by outsiders designed their cities to look like what they saw in the heavens. Each village has an almost identical layout. There are elongated mounds around a central plaza, looking kind of like the marks on a clock. But looking at the villages from above, they look like the rays of the sun. And the similarities continue. Each village has a diameter of about 282 feet. Each village had two primary roads cutting through them, with smaller roads leading to nearby bodies of water. Plus, each of these identical villages was only about 3 miles from the next. And those main roads cutting through them connected each village to the other, forming a network of villages all connected by roads through the jungle. When looking at all of these villages from above, they represent the cosmos. The people here were so knowledgeable they were able to replicate the stars and celestial bodies of the night sky. The Australian connection. In a bizarre and shocking new study, researchers have connected the first Amazonian tribes to the indigenous inhabitants of Australia. The genetic analysis could shatter everything we thought we knew about human habitation in the Americas. Rather than the Amazon being populated by people who moved out of Siberia into North America and then down into South America, it may have been Australians. The thing is that 15,000 years ago, there was a narrow land bridge called Beringia that connected Alaska to Siberia. The agreed-upon consensus for years has been that a significant group migrated into North America, and they were the ancestors of every person on the two continents for the next 15,000 years. Seeing as DNA directly links the Native American population of South America to the indigenous people of Australia, this clearly can't be the case. It looks like the Eurasians moved from Siberia into North America, while people from Australia and New Guinea moved across the sea into South America. Two distinctly different migration groups from two very different parts of the world. The big mystery now is figuring out how this happened. The Australians would have had to cross the ocean to reach the jungle, or walk across a previously unknown bridge that crossed the entire ocean. What other kinds of mysteries do you think are lurking in the jungle? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching! Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon for another exciting video. Bye!